Improvised Intelligence is sponsored by the amazing people over at Chop Chili. If you've been a long time listener to the podcast, you know that this is my favorite brand of chili here in New Mexico. Pretty much put it on every meal that I can. They've got red chili, green chili. My personal favorite is this blend of the red and the green. I think this stuff is phenomenal. They also have frozen bags of green chili that you can order directly from their website at chopchilico.com. You can also find them in stores around the state of New Mexico at Sprouts, Albertsons, Farmers Country Market, John Brooks, Keller's Farm Store, Lowe's Market. And you can also find them in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Hobbs, Gallup, Tucumcari, and for all my friends in Texas, they are in El Paso. Again, chopchilico.com. Go get yourself some amazing chili. Now back to the podcast. All right, what's up, everybody? How we doing? Welcome back to Improvised Intelligence. My name is Noah Vargas. I will be your host this afternoon. I've been wanting to come back and do a live episode on Saturday. Haven't done this in a minute. Yeah, good to be back. We'll wait for a couple people to get in the room, and then I'm going to start promoting this around a little bit. I just threw it onto my story. But tonight, a little bit of housekeeping here. Tonight, if you've got nothing to do, a couple of good comedy shows I'm going to be on at 7 p.m. tonight. I will be over at Don't Tell Comedy. Can't tell you where it's at technically or who's on it, but I know where it's at, obviously. I know who's on it. And it is going to be a fucking phenomenal show. It is going to be a great show. It's going to be at 7 p.m. Ticket link is going to be, if you go to my Instagram, you'll find that there, or the ticket link, just go to Don't Tell Albuquerque on Google, and that'll come up. Jason, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. There's going to be a great show. And then after that, at 9:30, I'm going to be over at Casada's Comedy Club. I'm going to hop on the late show tonight. Shout out to Casada's for booking me last night. I'm very excited to go do that. That's going to be a lot of fun. The headliner, Sahib, he's fucking hilarious. It's going to be great. Last night, I went and did, it was an interesting thing last night. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to promote this podcast a little bit. Last night, I went and did a opening set for this guy named Carter Anderson. Dude's been doing stand-up for like 10 years. Never heard of the guy. He posted a New Mexico comedy page like, hey, I'm in Albuquerque tonight, headlining this theater. I need a opener, and like nobody replies to it. And I was kind of surprised, I got to be honest. Nobody replies to it. And so I'm over here like, hey, turn the fan a little bit. I'm like, hey, I don't have a show tonight. I want to go do some comedy. I've done some pretty horrible shows in Albuquerque. There's no way this one's any worse than the ones that I've done. And so I reply to it. He books me. And I start looking up this dude. We've got some mutual friends. He's got like 330,000 on Instagram, 2 million on TikTok. And I'm like, holy shit, this dude's legit. So we do this little theater. I've seen the place, but I've never actually been. It's called the Q Staff Theater. Shout out to them. Great theater. Cool little performing arts space. Like imagine, like if you've ever seen like a coming of age high school movie and they have like an improv like performance area where it's like just an open performance space and then like rising seats. Probably sits about 70 people, 80 people in there. Damn near sold out. Very fun audience, very interesting audience, very liberal TikTok audience. So it was a fun show. I did pretty well with them. A few of my jokes absolutely fucking died, so that was awkward. But overall, I did pretty all right. And then he goes up and just fucking murders, dude. And it was crazy for me seeing this guy he has all the tools in the toolbox. You know what I mean? He has the ability to be a great stand-up comedian. He is a great stand-up comedian, but then he blows up on TikTok, gets his audience that way. And he's just telling me in the green room before the show about how TikTok allowed him to build this audience and he's able to travel around the country doing these shows and just coming out to an audience that's 100% for him, and he just goes out there and murders. And great show all around. So big shout out to Carter Anderson for putting me on the show. that was a ton of fun. Let's see here. So, yeah, I'm gonna do a couple of things really quick. But I hope you guys are all having a great Saturday. And let's see here. Let's do a couple of things here real quick. It was funny. I just got done at the gas station and ran into a friend of mine and their dad, and figure I'd send them the podcast. I don't even remember their fucking. This is gonna be awkward. Feel free to drop in the chat. This will be a unique episode where I will be if there are people in the chat, I will be interacting a lot more than I probably would otherwise, because this is going to be more of a discussion than it is going to be like me talking. I'll be talking about a subject, obviously, but it's this is going to be more about me expressing my feelings and ideas more than it is like an actual, like, these are things that are going on right now, but it's not like an actual, like, a story, like the Charlie Kirk thing, or like the murders that I found or that are being reported on, stuff like that. Okay, okie dokie. So now that I've got, oh my god, of course I open up my fucking Instagram and it's the guys from Trigonometry. If you don't know who they are, it's Francis Foster and Konstantin Kisin. They are intelligent guys, and it just kills me how much they support Israel. Like, it just absolutely kills me. And of course they have fucking Ben Shapiro on their show. We'll talk about Ben Shapiro in this episode for sure. We will definitely be discussing Mr. Shapiro. Actually, one more fun thing before we get into the topics at hand. I picked this up today, and I didn't even know that they were making it. Steelbook, 4K steelbook of Full Metal Jacket, the great Stanley Kubrick, fun movie. Well, I want to say fun movie, entertaining movie. That's for sure. And that's like the inside of the thing. If you guys, friends of mine, are fans of the show for a while, you know that I'm a huge physical collector. I love collecting physical media, so this will be fun to put on the 4K player out in my TV in my little home theater that I have and be able to watch it. That's just a damn good fucking steelbook, dude. I love the orange on the side there. I don't know if the camera's picking that up very well. That's fucking, watch me see if I can like create some depth behind that so you can see that. Does it focus? Yeah. All right. That's fucking cool. All right. Okie dokie. So, the main topic that I want to get into today is the idea of America first. We're going to talk about the leaders of America first right now. Yeah, so I just want to make sure it's some good audio. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the idea of America first. I'm going to talk about, and this is going to be a lot of, I want to keep this to about an hour. So I'll go in depth where I feel necessary, of course, but we're going to talk about America first, the leaders of America, the real leaders of America first right now, because they vary, I believe, on the political spectrum. My ideas around America first, why MAGA is breaking apart, and basically what this means for the country moving forward. Because there's a lot of infighting right now with the Republican Party. Obviously, that's very important with everything that's going on with the administration right now. The government shutdown, the fact that the administration, the Republicans, they do have majority right now in the House and in the Senate. And yeah, it's just, I've been thinking about this a lot. I try to read not just books, but like I'm cracking through 2 books right now. Well, if I'm being completely honest with you, I'm doing one audio book and one physical book. just because I don't have a lot of time to sit down and read. And then when I do want to sit down and read, I just really want to read comic books. I just fucking really want to read comic books. But one book that I'm reading right now, and this is a book that Dave Smith had brought up on his podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I ended up getting it and I'm reading through it, and it's pretty fascinating. It's in my bedroom. I'm gonna go grab it real quick. Okie dokie. So this book is by Max Blumenthal of the Gray Zone. He's coming to back into the political spotlight recently after the killing of Charlie Kirk and the article he put out on the Gray Zone about that. But this is actually a great book about the Israel-Gaza conflict. It's called Goliath, and basically, what this is he gives some backstory. I'm about halfway into it right now. He gives some backstory on and some context on the history of the conflict, where it started and that kind of stuff. And then he really gets into his actual reporting on when he lived and when he went to go spend, I don't want to say live, but he spent extended time in Israel and on the Gaza Strip. And he interviews people, and it's a lot of his own reporting there. Very good book. I highly suggest you guys pick this up and read it if you're interested in that specific conflict. And then the other book that I'm listening to right now that I'm getting through, I'm a little under a quarter of the way into it, I think. The Israel Lobby by John Mearsheimer. That's a fascinating listen right now. It just covers what the Israel Lobby really means outside of just AIPAC, where they give a lot more context into how all of these conflicts started in that region. And then the thesis of the book is not only that the Israel lobby has massive negative implications and negative effects, not just implications, negative effects on the American government, but also on Israel's government too. So it's a very interesting listen. It's free on Spotify. I mean, I would have preferred to pick it up, and I probably will pick it up physically. I do want that a part of my personal library. But at the moment, if you have Spotify, it's in the because there's free audiobooks on Spotify. And if you're a premium, yeah, I'm sure everyone has like a Spotify premium or an Apple premium, whatever. It's one of the audiobooks that you don't have to pay for. So I highly suggest to listen on that. It's very good. Anyway, so I try to read as much as I can, books, articles, listen to as many podcasts around the subject that I can from experts and people that are doing their own research on it. Try to hear a lot of different sides of this. And right now, I guess an easy place to start is, so there's a lot of Republican infighting right now because Tucker Carlson, Dave Smith did it too, but he's not catching a ton of heat. But Tucker Carlson, Dave Smith, and then Candace had him on a while back, but mainly people are really angry at Tucker Carlson for speaking with Nick Fuentes. If you don't know who Nick Fuentes is, he is a far-right political commentator. And he is, well, I don't even know if he's far right at the moment, but he has a lot of conservative views, mostly conservative views. I don't think he has any liberal leaning views, let alone liberal views. Very well articulated guy. He's about my age. He's about 27, 28. And he came to prominence really during 2020 with like when the January 6th was going on, because he was involved. Or not involved, but he was like speaking with the Trump administration, went and had dinner with Trump and Kanye West very famously, or just Ye, I guess. And he does have some very racially based views. He's very outspoken against racialism and violence in general. But the media wouldn't have you believe that, of course. But he's a very controversial guy in the way that he speaks. He's very inflammatory. He's very good at what he does, but he has some very good points. And he tends in right now in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, we'll get to that in a second. He's become really a major voice. Now, I wouldn't say he's completely replaced Charlie Kirk, but he is, I'd say, the front runner to really become the voice of the young men on the right. And we'll get into a little bit about the people that were the voices before Charlie Kirk really became prominent. For a small time, Andrew Tate, but it was the Ben Shapiro's and Jordan Peterson's. A little bit of Rogan in there, maybe. even though he's been very traditionally left. Just the idea of a male figure, a male leading figure in the political or otherwise just internet commentary space, podcasting space, really what it all boils down to is podcasting. But people are really upset. People are very upset with Tucker Carlson right now for interviewing this guy. They say they don't push back on him enough during the interview, during the podcast, which I think is complete and total fucking bullshit. If you were to listen, it's one of those funny things where it's like the people that are doing the reporting, it boils down into two different categories, right? The people that are doing the reporting on the Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson podcast, it's either they listened to the podcast and they're lying, just flat out lying about what happened, or they didn't listen to it and they're just making assumptions, or people are lying to them and telling people to believe things that didn't really happen. Obviously, this is not anything new with you can't even call it mainstream media, with the legacy media. I mean, we saw this with COVID, we saw this with the war in Iraq, all of GWAT in general, with the Russia hoax, with Donald Trump. It's they're telling you to believe something that didn't happen, and they're telling you to not believe things that you did see and hear. So it's interesting, and this is fracturing. Not in totality, but this is becoming another one of the things that is fracturing the Republican Party. And that's really the basis, I think, of this episode that I really want to cover is the fracturing of the Republican Party, the fracturing of the MAGA base, and then what it truly means to be America first. I just want to bring up the Tucker Carlson and the Nick Fuentes thing to give a little bit of context and to show what's currently happening right now and just how fucking stupid it is, in my opinion. What does it mean to be America first? Now, obviously, when that comes to mind, it's to put America first, right? To put the needs of the country, the needs of the people, the needs of the economy, the needs of the survivability of this country, to put that above all else. Now, in theory, you would be led to believe that that is what every American president, every American politician, everything from the representatives to the senators, down to the governors, the mayors, your city council people, men and women. That should be at the forefront of their policy, at the forefront of their motivations. And I believe, for as much shit as I talk about these people, because I think A, it's fun to, and B, it is necessary to talk shit about these people, because that's at the base of this country, is really at the foundation of this country. It's a giant middle finger to the government. I think it is incredibly important to give these to the government as necessary, if not more, because that is at the foundation of who we are as Americans. I believe that a lot of the people in power, they want America to succeed. Now, obviously, when a lot of these people get into the positions that they want and the positions that they aspire to, they start to get corrupted. Now, whether that's power, whether that's money, whether that's blackmail, it's anyone's guess, and it's a case-by-case basis. I touched on this a little bit in the episode that I did on Thursday with Nate, but I didn't get to go into a lot of detail because we were constrained by time, as we are today. Well, so maybe we'll kick out a little bit more than an hour. I want to keep it to about an hour, but especially with his time, be respectful of his time because he's very busy. I think a great example of that is Tulsi Gabbard. I referenced this in that episode. She is one of the people that I am the most disappointed in, if I'm being 100% honest, which I try to be at all times. I'm very disappointed in Tulsi Gabbard. Very disappointed. As a director of national intelligence, I think she is a wholesale failure. Much with a lot of the people in the administration today, I don't think there's really anybody that's succeeding at their job. I think Kennedy is doing all right as the DHS, Department of Health, the Secretary of Health, or not DHS, but the Secretary of Health and Human Services. But I think DHS is failing. I think Pete Hegseth I think he's passionate, but he's putting all his attention in the wrong areas. Rubio, we always knew Rubio was going to be a failure as a Secretary of State. But Tulsi Gabbard is the one that really disappoints me because I've been a fan of hers for a while now, probably going on 10 years. And obviously, I think with a lot of people my age, especially young men my age, we learned about her, and we started taking notice to her when she was on Joe Rogan and a lot of her outspoken things or outspoken appearances at different media outlets, because her whole stance was no more regime change wars. That was her whole thing, was no more regime change wars. In the 2020 election, when she was going in the Republican Party against Donald Trump, that was her whole thing. No more regime change wars. That whole moment when she smacked down Kamala Harris about the, putting people in prison for marijuana, and she laughed about smoking marijuana. She's a very outspoken individual, obviously not playing nice and not playing the game with your respective political party will get you kicked out of it. Now, I think that she jumped ship before she had the ability to get exiled from the Democratic Party holistically, or let's just be completely honest, taken out by that political party. Because she was saying some pretty wild shit. But when she jumped ship from the Democrats and aligned with the Republicans, a lot of people, myself included, a lot of people took that as a sign of hope. Where it's like, oh shit, like this is, am I gonna sneeze? Excuse me. Like, oh shit, this is the turning of the tide. COVID woke a lot of people up. She's brave enough to leave the Democratic Party. Kennedy followed suit. He was more of an independent than he was a Democrat at the time anyway, but you see my point. But now when we flash forward and she's the director of national intelligence, we're getting into this war with Iran, which I don't believe. They call it the 12-day war, but I agree with Dave Smith where he says we don't really know if this is over yet. It's yet to be seen. It's yet to be seen. What does she say? Well, she puts out a report in March or April of this year saying that not only does Iran not have a nuclear weapon, they have no political aspirations to build a nuclear weapon, but after the Israeli government decides to strike Iran, despite the clear signaling from Donald Trump and his administration that they do not want to attack Iran, that they are in current negotiations with Iran to lower their nuclear proliferation. What does she have to say? Oh, well, we believe that Iran is building nuclear weapons and we must prevent them from having nuclear weapons. Now, the most prominent, I'd say, the most prominent argument against this is, well, Donald Trump has been saying that this is something that fucking moron Josh Hammer perpetuates a lot. Love to get my proverbial hands on that guy. He says a lot that, well, this has been a campaign promise. This is something that Donald Trump has been saying, that he will not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. While, yes, that is true, he, again, I can't overstate this enough, he was in negotiations with the Iranian government, but of course, he is not in control of what happens. Israel is. Benjamin Netanyahu is Donald Trump's boss, and they did what they wanted to anyway. And of course, Donald Trump has to start signaling that, we may have to take care of Iran. Although he did have that one moment in front of the press where he said, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Now, granted, I think that was about, no, I take that back. That was about Israel and Hamas. I take that back. But the same principle actually applies to that, funny enough. But of course, after Israel strikes Iran, she comes out and says what she said and completely turns heel on her own investigations. Now, of course, that leads you to one of 2 points. Either she was lying. She was lying in her initial reports, and every other report before that, even before she was the director of national intelligence, they've all said the same thing. All those people, including Tulsi Gabbard, are liars, or they are corrupted. They are corrupted by the Israeli government. Now, I can't talk about the Israeli government occupying our government, the Israeli lobby occupying and influencing our government to detrimental degrees, without acknowledging, obviously, that a lot of people hear this and they say, oh, you're either straight up saying white nationalist talking points or you're dog whistling to white nationalists. Obviously, that is not what I'm doing. Aside from the point that I am not and never will be a white nationalist, not to play the race card here completely, but I am Hispanic. I am down the middle, half Mexican, half white. My last name is Vargas, for Christ's sake. But there is a bit of history here that I want to touch on, and this was brought to light again in this dumbass interview with CNN that Candace Owens took, the same dumbass that interviewed Tim Dillon. So this term that I'm going to bring up is coming back into the political conversation. I think it's important to touch on it today. ZOG, the Zionist-owned government. I believe that's what it stands for, ZOG, the Zionist-owned government. The idea that the Zionists, that the Israelis, that the Jews, the Jews, right? The Jews run the government, run the American or otherwise Western government, specifically the American government. Jews run the media, they control the fucking weather, whatever, right? Is those kind of talking points. But specifically the idea that it's the Zionist-owned government. Just because... Stick with me here. I think this is important to say. Just because our government is highly influenced and otherwise controlled to a degree by Zionists, right? Just because that is a belief of white nationalists does not make that a racist, bigoted, hateful statement. If white nationalists decided tomorrow to come out and say that they love corgis, they adore corgis, or they think, a little more personal to me, they think Batman is the best superhero that's ever been written, or they think that Zack Snyder should make Justice League 2 and 3, or just things that I enjoy, right? If white nationalist groups came out and started making that the forefront of their movement, that would not make me or anyone who agrees with that sentiment a white nationalist. What that means is that humans have mutual agreements and mutual interests. And I think obviously this is a very obvious statement, but I think it's something that needs to be said. And this is something that we've seen over the last, I'd say, 5 to 7 years with the rise of podcasts, the rise of people that are on opposite ends of the political equation, the political spectrum coming together to have these conversations. Jubilee has a lot of these instances in their videos where it's like the one person is the 20 people that detract from them. A lot of people have middle ground. And a lot of people are waking up to the influence of the Israeli government, the influence of the Israeli lobby. But back to America first. What does it mean? Like, what does it truly mean to put your country first when you are in the position of power, or in a position of power? Again, whether you're a mayor, putting your city first, or you're the president of the United States that's supposed to put the country first. There's a lot of places to start. And I think the best place to start with this is just acknowledging that the Republican Party and Donald Trump himself has completely tarnished his reputation, his presidency. And just me saying that, I know that you listening to this, there are 1,000 different things that he has done, either not that great to just holistically horribly, that comes to mind, that undoes all of the good things. Now, there were a lot of bad things. There were. But all the good things that he did in his first presidency, all of the things he was talking about after he came down that escalator, like, I miss the Donald Trump of late 2015 to like 2018, a little bit of 19 in there. I miss that Donald Trump. Because that was the guy that everyone voted for. And we all have digital receipts. There's digital receipts of me. I was MAGA. When I was a young 18, 19, 20-year-old, I was MAGA. Wholeheartedly. I was like, this is the fucking guy. This is the dude. He's going to fight the deep state. He's going to da-da-da. And then we saw the intelligence agencies turn against him. And obviously I wasn't as politically in tune at the time, but I look back on that and I don't regret that support. Sat out the 2020 election, just couldn't vote for either one, just because, when people talk about, especially Trump supporters, when they talk about Donald Trump's first administration in such a good light, really all they're talking about is the first 3 years because of how horribly he ruined this country in 2020. And we're not like, I'm not going to get into all that because that's all obvious and we can get into that another time, but that would just be a whole other 30 minutes on itself. But that's, what they're really talking about. But clearly into the 2024 election, when you're looking at between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, I mean, the answer was obvious and America spoke. America spoke. Not only did Donald Trump win the popular vote, he had, and feel free to fact check me, but I remember looking at the statistics at the time, he, in all the demographics for minorities, whether it was blacks, Latinos, women, I believe even in the Asian vote, historic rises, especially for a Republican candidate. Historic rises in all of those categories because America holistically was rejecting. They were rejecting what the Democratic Party, and a lot of Democrats too, rejecting what the Democratic Party was offering. Because let's not forget, during the Democratic Party, during their time in presidency with Joe Biden and then Kamala Harris as the vice president and her being the front runner, just being installed as the front runner. Nobody asked for that. And we even know that now with her going that stupid book tour she's going on. Let's not forget just a couple of highlights. They made the COVID regime even worse and they expanded it. They actually tried getting a ministry of truth implemented. They completely opened up the borders and let record amounts of illegal immigrants into this country. Back in the ministry of truth thing, the censorship regime was at an all-time high. The Ukrainian-Russian war perpetuated by the Biden administration. The Israel-Gaza conflict perpetuated and escalated and funded to historic levels by the Biden administration. And what did Donald Trump run on? I'm not going to censor you. I'm going to close the borders. I'm going to stop the wars. I'm going to fix the economy. Now, I think when everyone, especially that last point, everyone heard that, any reasonable person heard that, it's like, okay, he's not going to fix the economy just overnight. But what he is going to do is at least signal, right? At least put things in place that would make living in America more affordable. Now, everything that I just listed has gotten perpetually worse. Now, we're in the ceasefire right now. It's hanging on by a fucking thread, and we're waiting to see what's happening with that. So I haven't talked about it too much because I'm just like, let's wait and see how this really pans out here. But the ceasefire is hanging on by a fucking thread. The only thing they've done right in this administration is closing the border. But what you need to understand with all the points that I just brought up is the vast majority of the country that turned out for Donald Trump and went to go vote for him, they were like, hey, do a 180 on all of these conflicts or all of these issues. One of the best moments in the campaign was when Donald Trump did the city hall with CNN. And they tried goading him and tried baiting him into saying he would keep funding the Ukrainian war. And what is his response? If you guys remember, his response was, I want the killing to stop. He said, I want Russians to stop dying. I want Ukrainians to stop dying. I want the killing to stop. The best stance that you can take on any war. Bar none. Bar none. The best stance that you can take on any war is, I want the killing to stop. Now, have we stopped funding the Ukrainian war? No. We've allowed it to continue and we allowed it to keep going. It's very unfortunate. Immigration, right? Deportations. Deportations are not happening at the rate that, again, the vast majority of Americans want them to happen. I know that I have a lot of left-leaning and a lot of liberal friends, and a small portion of this audience is liberal-leaning. But let's be perfectly clear here. Americans are sick of illegal immigration. Americans are sick of our government giving preferential treatment to illegals. They're sick of it. I am sick of it. Why? Because the majority of people that voted for Donald Trump are not racist. They're not bigoted. They are America first. They are sick of being treated like second-class citizens in their own country. They want Americans to be put first. That has not been happening, or that was not happening under the Biden administration. But now under the Trump administration, because let's talk about for a second how, I'm going to just give you I'm going to give you one example, one gleaming example of how bad it got. The Roosevelt Hotel literally got subsidized by the government, and it's like a 4 or 5-star hotel used to house illegals. And that's still happening right now. It's in a lot of hotels around the country where a lot of illegals are staying there and getting all their amenities paid for. It's happening right now. And there's a lot of people out there that are saying, oh, well, and then a lot of illegal immigrants are getting access to health care, something that a lot of American citizens do not have access to. And now a lot of people are saying, oh, no, that's not true. They can't get health care. Yes, they can. It's happening, right? They don't have access to Medicaid, but they have access to health care. I kind of want to bring my laptop out so I can just like break all this shit down. I might do that towards the end. We'll see. So I can give some actual statistics here. But this shit is happening. And people are sick of it. They want them out. But specifically, because look, I think most people, right? Most people, both left and right in this country, can say two things at once. That we want illegal immigration to stop, and we want illegal immigrants to stop coming to this country, and we want the violent ones deported. But then we also can say that the illegal immigrants that are non-violent, because there's a lot of them. There is a lot of them. Don't get it twisted. There are a lot of illegal immigrants that are non-violent that want to come here for a better life. And you know what? If you're willing to take that risk and you're not coming in here, you're not making the country worse, I think you should have, if you have no history of criminality or history of violence, there should be a faster track, right? But that's what people are saying is like, we can allow the illegal immigrants that are already here to stay, but then get a faster track to citizenship. I think that's what most people are saying right now. But that's not what's happening. And I keep referencing this in the podcast. Is kind of what I go back to. So the Sean Ryan podcast, Sean Ryan had Tom Homan on earlier this year, and he was talking about what his vision for ICE was as the borders are and like what they were going to do. And he was like, look, we're going to go after the violent illegal immigrants first. But if there are illegal immigrants that are nonviolent and we catch you, you're going to go with them. And on paper, I see the logic there. I'm like, okay, fair enough. I mean, that's the law. That's how it's going to be. All right, you did come here illegally. You broke the law. I totally get that. But now we're getting a lot of ICE whistleblowers come out, and they are openly admitting that ICE has a quota of 3,000 arrests a day. Now that we're seeing in the numbers now that those arrests are not equating to deportations for better or worse, but they're going to arrest. Now, we all know this. You don't have to exactly be a political scientist. You don't have to be the smartest guy in the world, because I can put two and two together. So if I can do it, I know you can too. If you give a body of government a quota that involves detaining and enforcing the law by threat of violence on a people, if you give them a quota that they have to reach, it's not going to turn out well. I think we can all agree with that. It's not going to turn out well. The less impactful, the more lighter side of that, or a lighter example, I suppose, is when like police departments get quotas for speeding tickets. Clearly just trying to gather revenue for the city government. Nobody likes that because, I mean, I'm just like, fuck you. If I want to speed, I'm going to speed. If I fuck up, then punish me. But I got places to be. Let me go. You know? I think speeding limits are kind of gay. Except for residential areas. No kid should be hit. Yeah, that's not good. But like, if I'm just going down the road, fuck you. I'm better driving most of these people anyway. But you get my point, right? When you start adding these quotas, you're not going to get a great outcome. And that's what we're seeing with ICE. And these ICE whistleblowers are coming out and they're literally saying that they are resorting to going to places like Home Depot and finding these illegal immigrants that are nonviolent, but they're trying to find work and snatching them up because they know that's where they can hit their quota. And that's not good. Definitionally, it's not good. It follows the law, but it's not good. And another reason, and Nate brought this up, another reason why we need to have a fast-tracked, outside of the obvious reasons, why we need to have a fast-tracked pathway to citizenship is that these people that are illegal immigrants that are coming here and finding work, they get taken advantage of, hand over fist. So stopping the illegal employment so they can have benefits, so they can have an equal wage, so on and so forth, that's important. It's very important, in my opinion. But again, a lot of what, but they're not even equating. You see what I'm trying to say, right? Like they're not taking these deportations and turning them, or they're not deporting the right people, because there are the right people to deport. I know it's an ugly statement, but there are the right people to deport. That is a statistic. That is a thing. That is a demographic of people. There are people that need to get the fuck out of this country. But what are they deporting? Well, at the first chance, if they had to deport people, who did they deport? Bunch of fucking kids on the east side of the country that were protesting Israel. Gone. On what? Now I get it. Now I just want to say this. If there are people that are in protests and they're waving like Hamas flags, I think that happened like with one person, and they're waving like Hamas flags, or if they're waving any terror insignia, you should probably, whether they're fucking Americans or they're illegal people that are, I don't say illegal immigrants, if there's people on visas or they have like a legal status. If you see these people waving these flags, am I saying you should detain them? No, because freedom of speech is a real thing, and I'm a freedom of speech radicalist, but probably take their information down. I don't know. You should probably look into these people, make sure they're not actually connected to violent people that are overseas in other countries. That's completely reasonable. But deporting people for, because let's just really break this down to what it was, like, or what it is, right? Let's really break this specific thing down. Deporting people for protesting a foreign government. But that brings us back to my original point, right? The Zionists, the Israeli lobby that controls our government. Now, I think I've outlined pretty well where Donald Trump is failing. What I want to touch on is, and I think this is an important distinction to make, right? A very important distinction to make between what is Israel first, or not Israel, Israel first is there, right? But what is Israel first, or America first, and what is MAGA? Because those two things are not the same anymore. I need to make that so clear. America first is not MAGA. And MAGA is not America first. Let's make that crystal clear here. Those two things are no longer aligned. We break that down. Where did they split? In my opinion, where these things split is when Donald Trump and his administration, specifically Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, when they decided to completely spit in their voter base's face and say, we're not looking into Epstein anymore. When they touted out and they paraded Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and they made them go out there, whether it was to the legacy media or to fucking Joe Rogan, and tell these people, tell the American people, obviously more on Joe Rogan because he has a bigger reach than the legacy media does, and tell the American people that Epstein killed himself. Every time, I know it's not just me, but every time that Kash Patel, notice how Dan Bongino, after that little media spree he was forced to go on, he's just out of the limelight. There are a lot of reports coming out that he was trying to step down and get out of the administration because he couldn't do the lying anymore, right? But notice that every time, whether it's, again, in front of like the legacy media, when he went to Joe Rogan, when he was in front of Congress, every time that Kash Patel is in front of the cameras talking to the American people, that dude, you might as well have a floating red dot on his forehead. And that's not an Indian statement, by the way, just saying, but it's a floating red dot. Like, you say the wrong thing, we're gonna pop you. That dude is being held hostage by the intelligence agency he claims to help run. Let's be completely clear about that. Complete 180 on the Epstein thing. And look, was the Epstein thing like a number one problem that they were running on? No, but did they talk about it, and did they bring it up, and did they tout it as like, we will release all the files every chance they got on the campaign trail? You bet your ass. You bet your ass they did. Hell yeah. And then when they get in the administration and they're like, oh, we're gonna, like, they had all those influencers come out that were holding those, obviously we now know they were fake, but all those fake binders and all these fucking gay Republican influencers saying that we're going to roll this out. Pam Bongino's on Fox News saying tomorrow I have a big announcement. We're going to blah, 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 blah. And then there was the leaked video. Who leaked the video? Was it Project Veritas? I can't remember what group, but one of their people went and had lunch with Pam Bondi, and she was recorded, both audio and video, at a lunch, saying about how what's taking so long with the Epstein files is that they're going through tens of thousands of pages of documents that have names and addresses and flight logs and all of these supporting things. They have to go meticulously through all this evidence to get it right. And they have like tens of thousands of hours of videos. And she explicitly said it was of assault and rape of children. Like, let's be so crystal clear. Let's be so crystal clear about this. The current president of the United States is covering the biggest global trafficking pedophile ring that's specialized in young children, majority of which, from what I'm understanding, allegedly, majority of which, little girls. If that doesn't make your blood boil, like if that doesn't bring you to just some primal, just inherent anger, I don't know what will. Truly. Like, because I think in society, well, I know this, I think we all know this, that in society, we put crimes against a child, crimes against children, above all other crimes. A 75-year-old person gets murdered and a 4-year-old gets murdered. Obviously, we have a lot more empathy and a lot more sadness and a lot more emotion towards the 4-year-old. We know this, right? This is inherent in us as a species, as an animal, you know, because we are animals, right? Highly evolved, but animals. Highly created animals. But we know this, right? We know that crimes against children are so much worse than crimes against adults. Because they're vulnerable. They're easily malleable. They're easily influenced. They're easily convinced. Easily taken. Let's call it what it is. They're easily taken and abused and violated. We know this. That's why we protect them. That's why parents have to be in the household. That's why families care for their young so much, in the human race specifically. But that's not the priority of the Trump administration. Protecting the children. Remember that? Remember that? The protect the children during the Biden administration that the Republicans were touting, and they were talking about like the drag brunches and the transgender stuff and all that, which I think are important, are very important, but they were mentioning those things in the same breath that they were talking about Epstein. And look where we're at now. Where's the protected children stuff now? Gone. Nowhere to be found. So that's where I think MAGA got fractured in the first place. I think the death blow to what MAGA was supposed to be and what they were trying to maintain, the death blow was the killing of Charlie Kirk. I mean, we're just, because Charlie Kirk was assassinated on September 10th. We are on November 8th, so we're just shy of 60 days from Charlie Kirk's brutal murder. And obviously, now this is not going to be an episode going into the deep dives of that murder. I think I know that Candace Owens is doing amazing work on that right now. And just a quick thought on that is she's getting a lot of shit. Just my personal thought. If I was as big as Charlie Kirk and I was out here talking about the things that obviously him and I had very different views specifically about Israel. Now it turns out he might have been changing his views on Israel just a tad, just a smidge. You know, apparently that was a thing. That's on text messages. And people in Turning Point, people like fucking Josh Hammer are lying about it. Fucking scumbags. All of them. But if I was doing what I'm doing at a massive level like he was, and I was murdered for it, I hope that I'd have a friend like Candace Owens investigating, turning over every rock, turning over every stone, looking through every avenue of approach to who killed Noah. I pray that I have at least one friend like that. God bless Candace Owens, for real. For real. Clearly she's going through some deep grieving process right now, and clearly she's trying to process that, and who can blame the poor woman? To watch, I mean, I can't imagine watching my best friend get his neck blown open and then see people cheer. Fuck you, man. I'd be doing the same exact thing. But my point is, I pray that I have a friend like that, let alone one with a platform like hers that could go out and investigate my murder. But I think that was the final blow to the MAGA movement, truly. Because look at what's happened to Turning Point since. They were the major non-partisan, or not like complete, they're aligned with the Republican Party, obviously, but they weren't like a part of the non-governmental, I think that's the way to put it. They were the biggest non-governmental organization. Not that I'm calling them an NGO, even though I just did. But you see what I'm trying to say, right? They were like the grassroots. Now, they had a lot of, maybe they are an NGO. Maybe they are an NGO. Because they had so much funding from billionaires and from Israeli. Oh my God. Maybe they were. Maybe they were an NGO. But you see my point, right? Like, they were the ones really pushing with the young people, pushing the MAGA movement. Charlie was always wearing the MAGA hats and throwing them out to crowds and blah, blah, blah. But he really was MAGA. But I think at his core, he was America first. But he had his avenue of approach to getting to America first. And he was clearly struggling with the Israel problem. Just the Israel problem. He was clearly struggling with that. And now, whether it was a lone gunman, whether it was a intelligence agency, intelligence apparatus, a collusion of multiple intelligence apparatuses funded by Israel, perpetuated by Israel. Now we're learning about those 12 Israeli phones that were there. MAGA is a deep, hollow shell of what it used to be. And the Republican Party, how they've been handling the wake of the death of Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk, for everything that he was and he wasn't, what he was at his core, where I had deep respect for him, even though I didn't love how much he adored Trump and how much that he, spouted out for Israel. I don't like talking ill of the dead, but that's what he did. where I found great respect for him and what I loved about his platform is that he was a free speech radicalist. Very right-leaning or very right-sustaining. But he was a free speech radicalist. That was at the core of his movement. That was at the core of his message. He was a free speech radicalist. And I respected him for no end with that. And when you look at the wake of his murder and you see how the Republican Party is handling it, what are they doing? They're trying to silence detractors. Tucker Carlson, right? To really bring this back to the beginning. After he hosts Nick Fuentes, what are they calling him? They're calling him a Nazi. They're calling him a Holocaust denier. They're telling him that he's spitting in the image of Charlie Kirk, blah, 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 blah. And now, do I blame the Republican Party? Do I blame people on the right for, what's the term? When someone dies and you elevate them, whatever that term is for them, elevate into that highest stature, right? Whatever term you want to use for that. Do I blame them for doing that with Charlie Kirk? No, not at all. But the idea that Charlie Kirk would oppose Tucker Carlson for hosting Nick Fuentes, and then the idea that Charlie Kirk would go on to call him a Nazi is just absolute fucking nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Now, obviously, Nick Fuentes and Charlie Kirk were on opposing sides of things, and Charlie Kirk never wanted to have Nick on his show or on a podcast or anything like that. That doesn't mean that he would be opposed to Tucker Carlson, and to even assume those things is just so asinine. So now we have the MAGA movement that is just the diehard. They're just as retarded and just as gay as the far leftists. And the way the leftists and the far leftists will just idolize the Democratic Party, right? I guess we should be doing over here, right? For the Democratic Party. Now you have the people on the right that are doing that for Donald Trump. They've been doing that, but now they're going even harder. And they're okay with everything Donald Trump is doing. And they don't recognize the Israel problem, or they just choose to ignore it, or they just flat out lie about it. And that's why in the thumbnail I had people like a Ben Shapiro on there. Because obviously that's what he's going to do. And with Ben Shapiro, that fucking moron. I shouldn't say moron. He's a smart guy, but he's just like not. He was the guy, if we all want to go back in history, if we all want to go back to the era of 2012 to like 2015, 2016, a little bit of 17 in there, when he was big, right? When he was big. Daily Wire popping off. He was the facts, not feelings guy. Gone. That's gone now. He was the guy that would go and debate and go and whatever. Now he lives in echo chambers, and now he lives in his own fucking world. And he was the guy that was known for doing that, made his name off doing that, and he was very popular for doing that. I'm just checking the live stream. I just want to say thank you to everyone who is watching. If you are watching, please drop a comment in the live chat. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate that. It helps out. It helps out the show, But that was his thing. And he was the facts, not feelings guy. And then at the same time, you had the rise of Jordan Peterson, where he was on that same kind of passion and token. He was talking a lot about, you need to go out there and work as hard as you can. You can be better, this, that, and the other, be a better man, be a better blah, 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 blah. Both of them shilled out for Israel now. They're gone. Then you had the rise of Andrew Tate. And they're saying the West is following. We just need to be a strong man. Blah, blah, blah. He's kind of gone on his wayside. I'm sure he's still big and famous or whatever, or rich or whatever. But my point is, and all my rambling here, I guess my point is the right has lost all their credibility. Truly. Whether it's their politicians, whether it's their independent, quote unquote, spokespeople like Ben Shapiro, lost all their credibility. In this administration, I don't think this is unfounded. I don't think this is dubious to say. The right has managed to destroy their image. They have managed to do, and because what? We're on November 8th. They have managed to do in just under 11 months what it took the left 3.5 years to do under Biden. Let that sink in. If you're watching this show, I'm sure it already has. But let that sink in. They have managed to do in just under a year what it took the Democrats just under 4 years to do. And it's despicable. And now what we have, actually, yeah, I'll touch on this now. And now what we have is we have a large swath of mostly men, but I am seeing a lot of women join as well, which is good. We have a large swath of people in America under the age of 35 that voted for Trump, that feel left behind by the administration, that feel betrayed, duped by the administration. I count myself as one of them. I'm not afraid to admit it. Trump, you got me, Trump. You got me, Republican Party. You got me. You got my vote, and you've done everything the exact opposite of what I asked you to do. And I'm not alone, but I'm just I have the humility to say it. You got me. But guess what? Here's the issue the Republicans find themselves in. And the midterm elections are coming up next year. And we have less than a year in the summer of 2026. We have less than a year till the midterm elections happen. They have a large swath of people under 35 that feel duped by the current administration, but they don't want to go to the Democrats because the Democrats are a fucking circus. They haven't changed. They haven't changed. They haven't changed. And they're not going to. So where do these people go? We really only have a two-party system. Now, at least where my brain goes, the logical thing is like, well, they'll start voting for libertarians, start voting for the whatever. But we know that when pencil comes to paper, people don't change, and at best, they just don't vote. We saw that. We already covered that with the mayor stuff here in Albuquerque. So that's not going to happen. So what happens now? We're looking at the decline of a civilization. We're looking at the decline of a major empire. And let's not get it twisted. This will never happen again. America is called the Great Experiment for a reason. We shouldn't have happened. The idea that a bunch of ragtag, I guess at the time, expats, right? Because they were a part of England. The idea that a bunch of ragtag expats, patriots, who wanted something more for them and their lineage, could break away from a massive government like at the time the English and form their own government where the idea was that that they had their own predestination, that all were equal under God. Now, obviously, women didn't get full rights till later, and there was slavery. I understand that. And we had a huge civil war over slavery. But the idea that the West, you see what I'm trying to say? The idea that the West could exist in the way that it did in its formation, in the way that it's evolved, mostly positively. The idea that this is going to happen again, I'm not hopeful. Look at England. Everything that happens in the UK tends to happen 5 to 8 years later in America, and it's happening right now. Massive censorship, massive immigration, replacing the population over there, changing the culture. That's what people are afraid of happening here now. But I don't say that in a racist way. I don't say that in a racially based way. I say that in an idealistic and ideological sense. The idea that we're going to have massive immigration happen in this country and we're going to just assume that all of them are going to forget their culture and align with America, it's not going to fucking happen. We're having parts of our country where you're hearing calls to prayer. You're hearing Muslim calls to prayer. I'm sorry, but I'm not convinced that should be happening in America. Now, you can call me a racist for that. You can call me a bigot for that. If you want to practice your own religion, do it in your own home. Do it in your religious buildings. That's the idea of America, that we don't force other people to our ideologies. Why do you think the right was so upset, outside of the physical implications, but why do you think the right was so upset about the transgender stuff? Because that was an ideology that most of America does not want pushed, let alone pushed on children. Sorry, just the fucking truth. It's just the truth. We don't want shit like that. If you're above 18, go do what you want. You can provide consent, go do what you want. But don't push it on people who don't want to know about it, don't want to hear about it, don't want to deal with it. And quite frankly, I apply that to Christianity too. As a Christian, I don't force my religion on people that don't want to hear it. I just don't. Because that's not my place. If they want to hear about it, I will talk about it. I'll talk about my experience, about my beliefs, but I'm not going to force somebody to hear it, force somebody to believe it. That's their own choice as a sovereign citizen. And as a sovereign nation, the best of the best, in my opinion, still, I don't think that we can be duplicated. I don't think that this can happen again. That's my point. I'm not convinced the great experiment of America can happen again. And that's what scares me, truly. That's what scares me, that now we're having our government get completely occupied by the Zionists. And where do we go from here? Because let's not get it twisted here. Let's not get it twisted. Donald Trump came in with the most, I'm not saying any of these tasks are easy. I'm not saying any of these tasks are a smooth paved road. But what I will say is Donald Trump and his administration came into the presidency with the most clear and precise objectives. Close the border, deport the violent illegals, stop the wars, fix the economy, stop the censorship. Where are we now? Where are we now? We're not even a year into this presidency and it's gone downhill this quickly. It's truly flabbergasting. They're not America first. They're not America first. So now we have a lot of these people under 35 that just want to live their lives, associate with the people they want to associate, have money, protect their families, provide for their families, and they feel forgotten. And the crazy part about it too is, I brought up the voting demographics in the beginning. This is not just white people. I'm not a white nationalist. I'll never be a white nationalist. This is not just white people. These are sentiments held by men, women, whites, Latinos, blacks, Jewish people, Asian people, everybody. Everybody feels left behind. And that number is growing in this demographic. The number of people in this demographic is growing that feel left behind and betrayed by this administration. What do we do now? I don't know. I got to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not going to sit here and act like I have a solution. I don't. But I know that I'm not the only one who feels this way. But let's talk about the people. Actually, before I get there, I do want to touch on one more thing, the government shutdown. I do want to touch on that because obviously that's not America first. It's not America first. Pop quiz for everybody listening. Pop quiz. Is there any organization, company, anything that runs that when it shuts down, first of all, let's imagine this company, let's imagine this organization does not produce anything. They don't have a GDP. They don't have profit. They don't create anything of substance. They don't create a product, okay? They don't contribute a thing, right? They just write policies for a group of people to live under. Let's say this organization, let's say this company creates nothing, gets paid a lot of money, and then when that company shuts down, the employees still get paid. But everyone they affect doesn't get paid. How would that exist if it wasn't the government? Explain that to me. You can't, because it makes no sense. It's nonsensical. We're entering like 40 days of this government shutdown, the longest government shutdown that's ever happened. It's the biggest shutdown. The second biggest shutdown was 35 days. And of course, that was under Donald Trump as well. And where are we at? Government assistance is completely cut off. Military is barely getting paid. The FAA just announced that they are cutting 10% of the flights just as we go into the holiday season. Air traffic control is going under. TSA is going under. What's going on? Now, listen, I do understand. Because, look, I've tried researching this. Boy, howdy have I. I've tried finding out who's really at fault here. I've tried finding out what's going on. But what I am seeing is that the Democrats do keep voting to keep the government shut down. And I do also want to throw out there, I just want to put this out there, that the government shutdown happened while initiated by the Republicans. It happened right as they had enough votes to completely release the majority, if not all, of the Epstein files. That's interesting, isn't it? Isn't that interesting? Shout out to Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey for making sure we all know that. Isn't that interesting? But now we're entering almost 40 days of this government shutdown. And look, there's a lot of finger pointing like I just illustrated. There's a lot of people saying, no, they're doing it. No, they're doing it. My colleagues on the other side, it's the Democrats. It's the radical left. It's the radical left. But at the end of the day, let's look at the facts on the ground. Initiated by the Republicans. The Republicans have the big three. Okay? They have the presidency. They have the House. They have the Senate. At the end of the day, the Republicans are in the major points of leadership, and the government remains shut down. Whose fault is this? Donald Trump's and the Republican Party. Let's make an analogy from my military friends out there. The company commander is responsible for everything that company fails and succeeds at. And that successions up through the battalion to the brigade, the division, the regiment, right? The government's organized the same way. Government's organized the same way as a military structure, so I think military principles should apply. If you are in command of a body of people, you are responsible for everything that they succeed and fail at. You get to revel in all your successes. That means you wallow in all your failures. So with this government shutdown, I can't help but point the finger at Donald Trump. This is his fault. Sorry for all our Republican friends listening to this right now. I know there are a few of them. It's his fault. It's your party's fault. At the end of the day. Hopefully the government reopens soon. I'm not here to talk shit about people who are on food assistance because I think collectivism in a serious conversation, I think collectivism is not good. But kids are going without food, man. Kids are going without funding. Travel, airlines are falling apart. Our government is not operating in a capacity that it should. But guess what? ICE is still getting funded completely. Israel is still getting funded completely. We're still funding the war in Ukraine. So we see where the priorities are. This goes back to America first. There's a good quote from Charlie Kirk that's been floating around since he passed, or since he got assassinated. I can't even say that he passed away when he got assassinated. There's a good quote from him. Where it says, you know a lot about a person, you find out a lot about a person in the way that they react to someone's death. And I think that same principle applies here. You know a lot about the government. You know a lot about their priorities when they are reduced down to only funding the most important things. And it's not you, and it's not me. Wake the fuck up, man. I know I have over the last few years. I know a lot of other people have too. I know I don't have a huge voice. I don't have a huge platform yet, but I do my best to evolve and I do my best to learn as much as I can. And this is where we're at now. Make no mistake about it. This government is not America first. So who is? Who is, right? That's the logical end question here, aside from what do we do about it. I already answered that. I don't know. So the last question to answer is, who is America first? What I find interesting about that is I think that there are a lot of people in our government and a lot of people in the political commentary space that are America first, but they have a lot of differing methods and differing ideologies to get to the idea of America first. I want to start with the most, maybe not the most explosive one. I say the most explosive one in politics right now, Zoran Mamdani. I believe he is America first. Do I agree with his policies? Do I agree with his agendas? No, I'm not convinced they're going to succeed, but I'm also not a numbers guy. Like, I'm also not a money guy. I've never been great at either of those things. This is just me assuming and just kind of trying to think critically here. But he is America first. What did he run on? He ran on making New York more affordable for New Yorkers. He ran on what can we do to make New York affordable so people stop wanting to leave, so people can get out of poverty, so that people of New York, the citizens, the everyday citizens of New York can thrive. That's what he ran on. Now we'll see. Obviously, he doesn't come into power until a couple months from now, but we'll see if that works out or not. We'll see, won't we? I'm hopeful because I want all of America to succeed. I'm not a fan of socialism. Obviously, I'm much more aligned with capitalism, even though we are in the late stages of crony capitalism right now. I think the principles of capitalism can and do work, but we'll see, I suppose. We'll see. But who else is America first in the government? I think Thomas Massie is. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is America first. I think Senator John Kennedy. There is a video of John Kennedy that I wanted to play. Let me see if I can find it right now. Give me 2 seconds. Let me see if I can't find this. It's regarding the government shutdown. Let me check it. Let me find it real quick. Give me 2 seconds. I should have had this pulled up already. I apologize. Here we go. All right, so just a context. So this is Senator John Kennedy. Senator John Kennedy, I don't think he has any relation, introduced bills to stop Congress from getting paid during the shutdown, which I agree with, obviously.
About SNAP payments. Some say federal employees are not being paid. These young men and women here, our pages, are not being paid. Our military is only being partially paid. I'm confused about SNAP payments. Some say the payments are being made. Some say they aren't. I've got 2 bills I'm going to offer up today. The first one is called the No Shutdown Paychecks to Politicians Act. This just says that while we're in a shutdown, members of Congress don't get paid, and they don't get back pay. The second bill is entitled Withhold Member Pay During Shutdowns Act. That bill says while we're in a shutdown, members of Congress don't get paid, but they will get paid. They'll get their money in arrears after we open government back up.
Now, the interesting thing there, personally, is I think that first one is the one that should get passed because there should be absolute punishment. There should be absolute punishment for all of these people, Republican and Democrat, that are still getting paid, and a lot of them have a high net worth on the, obviously being in politics and corruption's a real thing. They have a pretty decent net worth. Like, let's just, I know she's not running for re-election, but let's just do a fun little experiment here. Net worth of Nancy Pelosi. $120 million as of last year. Should she get paid in back pay? Should she get paid if you're a federal worker of any type, if you're a SNAP recipient, if you're a government assistance recipient not getting the benefits you're relying on, should she get paid while you're not and she's sitting on her wrinkly old ass doing jack fucking squat? I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced, personally. He's old as shit, but make that motherfucker run for president. Put him and Thomas Massie up there, and then after 4 years, make Thomas Massie run for president. God bless. Somebody. But who's America first? He's America first. MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie. Then look at the political commentating space. Obviously, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly. I don't agree with everything that she has to say. I don't agree with everything anybody has to say, really. But Megyn Kelly, Nick Fuentes, his show is literally America First. Nick Fuentes, Zohran Mamdani, Dave Smith, Scott Horton, Dave DeCamp. All of these people. I'd say Rogan, he's definitely America First. Not that I would holistically consider him political commentary, but, biggest podcaster in the world, had the president on. I think he deserves a little mention in there, I suppose. I'm wearing his club's fucking hat. But where do we go from here, man? I really don't know. It's concerning, I guess. And the only way, because look, I don't agree with the Democratic Party has, but do we remember in the last few years, while the Democratic Party was in charge, everyone was saying, red wave, get the Republicans in, red wave. The Republicans have failed you. So guess what? I wouldn't mind it if a blue wave happened. Punishment for all of them. Get those fucking Republicans out of there. But do we have a worse outcome with the Democrats getting a blue wave? Probably. That was my whole thesis for voting for Donald Trump, was that if the Democrats get in, if the fucking Democrats get in, it's going to be all of this, but even worse. I still think the Democrats will be a worse pick than Republicans right now, but they need some kind of punishment. But we all bear the brunt of that in reality, right? So who knows? Just thinking out loud here, just orating out loud. Whew. I don't know where we go from here, man. But I really want to get the points across that I got across today, and I really want to just make sure I say this again. America First is not MAGA. Because America First covers a lot more people. And again, America First is truly America First. The only way the Republicans can save themselves, and they won't do it for Christ knows what reason. Obviously, it's corruption, blackmail, whatever. Release everything you know about Jeffrey Epstein and hold people accountable. Stop funding Israel. Divorce the marriage from Israel. Get our money out of there. They have their own issues. Make them deal with it. Fuck them. Get rid of them. We don't need them. There is no political, moral, or ethical reason for us to be funding that satanic nation state of a country anymore. It's what lost it, and a big reason, I think, why the Democrats lost their election in the presidency, and it's why the Republicans are losing and have lost all their credibility. Stop funding them. There is no, even if it was the right thing to do, there is no demand, there is no political impotence, there is no, not impotence, there's no political imperative from the people that you're supposed to be. The whole reason we have our government set up the way it is that we elect the people to represent us, and then they do all the things that we want. But they are clearly not doing that. They are corrupt, they are blackmailed, they are negatively influenced into doing not what we want, but what the state of Israel wants, at least when it comes to foreign affairs. Stop the funding and make it public that we're not stopping the funding. And just a little personal request here that I feel like a lot of you listening would agree with. Sprinkle in a little investigation on who tried to kill Donald Trump. Sprinkle in a little investigation on who killed Charlie Kirk. That would be nice. Just a little goodwill towards what the people actually want. We want answers. We want answers. We want answers. But we're not going to get them. Not with this administration. They have fucked us. They are fucking me. They are fucking you. And they're expecting us to say thank you for it. And I'm not down with that. I'm not down with that. Don't want it. I'm America first, man. I want my countrymen, I don't care what they look like. I don't care how old they are. I don't care what gender they are. I don't care who they marry. I don't care who they worship. I want my countrymen to succeed, and I want my government to do everything in their power to make the lives of my countrymen better. That is what I want. I am America first. And I think everyone else should hop on too. Stop being MAGA. Stop being blue no matter who. Be America first. Because our government is no longer America first. And honestly, just calling it what it is, just to be completely honest here, political parties are fucking gay. Sorry. And guess what? I always bring this up in my political talks because it's the truth. George Washington, for all of his faults that he had, George Washington, in his final address to the country as president, think about what his last action as president was, to step down because he didn't want to be a king, right? His last statement to the American people was, do not get caught up in entangling alliances and do not get caught up in the political parties. And what is destroying our country right now? The political parties and entangling alliances. We should be friends with everybody. I'm not calling for isolationism. We should be friends with everybody. We should trade with all countries. We should be allies with Russia. They have things we want. We have things they want. We don't have to agree with everything they do. There are horrible things that countries do all over the world. There are horrible things that our country is doing in funding. We aren't the good guys. Let's just make that. We're better than other countries, but we're not necessarily the good guys. And I think we've seen that over the last couple years. All of GWAT, dude, they lied us into GWAT. They have weapons of mass destruction. Netanyahu coming over to our Congress and preaching that if we took out Saddam Hussein, that there would be stabilization or stability and peace in the region. That didn't fucking work out. The toppling of Muammar Gaddafi, that didn't lead to a better thing. We're still bombing Somalia. You know what? You see the point I'm trying to get at here? See what I'm trying to say? This is no longer America first. And it's absolutely fucking despicable. Absolutely fucking despicable. That's all I have to say. America first, man. That's what we need to be. If you watched the episode, whether you watched it live or you watched it afterwards, I appreciate your support. Please subscribe, like the episode, drop a comment. Thank you to everybody who did. I'll check the live chat afterwards. Thank you to everybody who did. Again, just a reminder, if you are able to come out tonight, 2 great comedy shows. Yeah, I do stand up outside of the political rambling. I do stand up comedy. I am a comedian. I got 2 shows tonight. We've got a Don't Tell. Just go on Google. I'll put it on my Instagram story after this live stream is done. But go on Google, look up Don't Tell Albuquerque, Don't Tell Comedy Albuquerque. It's about to sell out as of like noon today. There are like 11 tickets left. Those always sell out, so get your tickets now, provided they aren't sold out. Let me see if it's sold out or not. 'Cause I'm sure my good friend Jake Otero would have posted if it's sold out or not. Let's see. There are 9 tickets left for Don't Tell. Doors are at 6:30, shows at 7. I know the lineup. It's going to be great. Good friend of mine is going to be recording something pretty cool there. So that's going to be awesome. And then Casadas is holding their shows tonight. I want to pronounce this guy's name correctly. I don't want to be disrespectful, especially considering I'm going to be on his fucking show tonight. You know, that'd probably be nice. Sahib Singh. He's got 2 shows tonight, 7 and 9:30. I'm going to be on the 9:30 show. That'll be a lot of fun. Very excited to do that. I said support the show. Follow it on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, Improvise Intelligence. Follow me on Instagram. I'm trying to grow my Instagram too, because my personal Instagram has now been dwarfed by the podcast Instagram. So go follow me on both of those. Yeah, I'll be back doing this again next Saturday. I'll find a topic to talk about. We'll do this again. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.